Hey everybody, David here. It's late at night, and I'm live streaming across multiple platforms. I'm not sure if I can do the chat thing. I've got the overlay set up for it to work. Um, I do have a Facebook window open. If you go to my uh, Facebook POTU David author site, it's Facebook.com/POTU David author. You can find it, and maybe I'll see comments if they show up there. I'm not sure. The comment module they've evolved, but this isn't really about a question and answer. This is about relationships, and specifically, if one has ended recently, this is about how to reboot, what to do, how to survive. And I'm going to share some tidbits and some resources. I've got them all set up here to actually show you and maybe even follow up and things. This is inspired because I've got some friends. I won't shout out your names and family members. Hopefully, my video will stay stable. I've got my higher end camera running. I've got my background blurred in my home studio and I got all sorts of cool things. I can make noises and have some music and all sorts of cool, weird things. But we're just going to try to keep it simple here. So, I actually have some notes for myself here. So, I'm going to try to stay on track a little bit if I can. So, I've had some friends and family members, they're going through breakups. And yeah, been there, done that. But I learned a lot through the last one, and it's kind of been an evolving process for me. I wish I could tell you I'm a person who met his childhood sweetheart, and we got married in the seventh grade, and we lived happily ever after, celebrating our 50th year together, or something like that. The truth is, the best religious statistics of any religion in America, if you're watching in America, is there's a 52% failure rate. So there's greater odds that your relationship's not going to make it. And that's for a marriage. Now, in terms of dating, it's just a mess out there. And there's a lot of crazy things going on. There's a men's movement out there. It almost seems like anti women, and there's an anti men's movement. And then there's all these different classifications of relationship and identity things. And our whole species is going through something. So, I'm going to be speaking in general terms, coming from the perspective of a heterosexual male. I was born and raised with traditional concepts. I'm not trying to push those traditional concepts on anybody. In terms of, if you're looking for relationship advice and stuff like that, I would recommend that you go for a data driven type advice counselor. There's lots of counselors out there. I've found a lot of counselors are into counseling because they're trying to sort through their own stuff, but there's some good ones out there, but you need to find a baseline. I think the Goddard Institute has got the best data-driven research on successful, happy couples, because isn't that what it's about? You want to be happy, you want to be successful. So I don't have time to get into how to find the relationship, things like that. I do have a process that actually worked for me, and I'm going on my 6th year. And there's some context, and I'll share that maybe in another thing. But this is about, well, you just broke up. So there's a book. In fact, I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. So I'm going to show this resource first, and then I'm going to talk about the rule of three, and I'm going to share a very personal story about this. So I am going to activate this here. All right. Hopefully you can see that. I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm gonna see if I can just get rid of the chat display here. Um, I don't know how to do that. Maybe. All right, here it is. Here's my button. All right, so this is a little bit easier. Let me get rid of the logo too. You all know who I am, and if you don't, that's okay. You tuned in for some reason. Just go with it and save money. Good, great, thank you, honey. Okay, so the book is A Journey from Abandonment to Healing by Susan Anderson. And right now, if you are in deep distress, there is a website called abandonment.net. Right, it's live right now. This is their website. And This her work is just stunning. In fact, this book I got free. It cost me $1,000 in counseling to get this one years ago, and that's another story for another time. But in this book is a chapter called The Shattering. And now this is about loss and abandonment. So you feeling loss and abandonment, it could be related to someone dying, a pet dying, a relationship ending, whatever the cause is. If you're experiencing, the first 72 hours is a critical time. People will commit suicide. They will go on binges, drinking binges, drug binges, all sorts of stuff. This book will that first chapter will give you the clinical and in real layman's terms roadmap for what you're experiencing normal as a human being. You'll discover that when a relationship ends, let me get rid of this here. You actually we have an addiction to our relationships. It could be our pets or a relationship in our lives, including friendships. And those things are threatened or they come to an end. It is a neurochemical addiction worse than heroin. Not my words. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. All right. I wish I had a little bit more stability on the image here. Let me see if I can increase my lighting a little bit to maybe make things a little bit more stable. Live here. So it's got the music. Supposed to come up with something new every 30 seconds. I don't think I'm going to be that good. This is more like a fireside chat. So I'm going to relieve myself of any responsibilities. If you're watching this later, it's probably auto transcript on whatever platform you're watching it on. Fast forward through it, um, watch it at a faster speed, that sort of thing. So let me explain to you something I call the rule of three, and I'm going to share. I haven't really shared this publicly. I've shared this privately. Um, Something happened to me. Um, I was in a committed relationship, engaged actually, and I'm not going to go into all the gory details, but I discovered something that was sacred was destroyed, along with a note, and uh, I actually figured out that I actually had a heart attack as a result of it. They did MRI, not an MRI, but EKG on me a few years back. Says, David, sometime in the last 10 years, it looks like you've had a heart attack, a mild heart attack. And it describes some of the symptoms. There's only one event. But when I lost, I fell to my knees. I couldn't breathe. Didn't have any chest pain. I just couldn't breathe. And this rule of three thing kicked in, and I just decided to just breathe for 3 seconds, and then 30 seconds, and then 3 minutes. And in that time, I was what I'm going to do for the next 3 hours. So I go to work. What I'm going to do for the next 3 days. I was devastated, and I was in the shattering because I recognized the symptoms. I was in distress, and I decided to go to work. I decided to um, take care of some things that were related to the sacred things that were destroyed. And I don't know what your beliefs or non-beliefs are. I've come to conclusion or something. I've kind of explored them all. POTU, by the way, stands for Path of the Unlimited. And that's because I've stood in just about every circle imaginable, including the forbidden ones. And I learned a lot about human behaviors. And there's over 10,000 beliefs. And no, I haven't had enough. I haven't lived long enough to explore them all, but I've explored all the main ones, the ones you've probably heard about, and probably half a dozen you haven't heard of. That's probably a good thing. And I found some very common things that we all have as a species, like the golden rule. Yeah, even the things that most people consider evil, they kind of have their version of it. So, in this moment of distress, I'd reach out for help, and I found a place to stay. And I did have a last conversation the next morning, and I took all my stuff and made arrangements a few weeks later to get the rest of my stuff. And I set a timeline. My first time was a 72-hour timeline, and that was for myself. Like, what was I gonna do during the next 72 hours? Rule of 3, 3 days, right? And then I determined my rules, terms, and standards for this relationship because I did not want it to end, but it had ended. And I had determined what it would be required for me to be willing to open the door. And I knew I was vulnerable. Okay. I'm an addict, right? Neurochemical addict. Plus, I was deeply in love and I was shattered. Um, anyway, so the point is, and so in giving that some thought, it's all about getting to peace. So in the 3-minute timeline, I was inspired to check my social media, and I did. And at that time, there was somebody that I had great respect for was going through the exact same thing, almost in the same time. And they deleted their post later. But that moment in time gave me a wink from the universe saying, your life's not over, even if this is. And anyway, it's kind of interesting because I think I might even did some podcast driving during that time period of time way back in my car. But the point is I got a lifeline. I from the universe saying, okay, now rule of three. Now years and years ago, this is about suicide stuff because a lot of times when a relationship comes in, people become suicidal, and very common thing. And a lot of folks don't survive it. And I've had a lot of friends who've committed suicide during my life, and it always bothered me if they didn't say goodbye or leave a note. No one said goodbye or left a note. So I kind of came up with this pizza pie agreement thing. It's like, hey, listen, before you go, at least say goodbye. Let's go out and have a slice of pizza or pie. I'd even break my diet for that one, and let's find the a last meal worthy slice of pizza or pie or two, and let's just have a conversation. And I promise not to talk you out of it. That's the kind of thing. And I kind of for a while I was beginning to lose so many friends. I went around and I said, hey, listen, let's do this. And then it just became this pizza pie thing. We'd see each other post something about pizza or pie, and we noted that was a reach out. Kind of got past that after my last issue. It was actually shortly after Y2K, and I had lost a career, a six-figure career, making more money than I ever knew what to do with, and everyone hated me, and I was losing everything, losing my house. No one liked me. My relationship, everything sucked, and I was in a place where you turn to anything like prayer, even right. So I'm not going to get into what my belief systems were at the time. It was pretty traditional, pretty conservative, traditional type of stuff. And I reached out and I was inspired to go to my safe, which was in a back unfinished room. In that safe, I believe there was a revolver, if I remember correctly, 357 Magnum, and there was life insurance policy. Now I'm a former insurance agent, and I'm aware of a suicide clause, and I was looking for a sign. And in that moment, I saw that, I don't know, was it 3 days or 10 days? Very recently, the suicide clause had expired. It's a $1 million life insurance policy. It would solve all my financial problems and left something for my kids. And the person at the time probably wishes I would have done it. Just a wonderful gaslighting. Oh my goodness, I'm not gonna get into it. Point is I've been in bad relationships, and people would say they've been in bad relationships with me. I'm not perfect, and that I did go through a period of 6 months going back to all my relationships, going back to my childhood and apologizing and taking ownership of things. It's kind of a spiritual process. If anyone does the forum trademark, no, was it landmark forum? They actually have that process. I didn't go through it. I came up with it all by myself. Actually received it. And anyway, the point is, I read that and I had my sign. It was really kind of weird. It's like I had total peace and I was suddenly glad I had found an answer. And I got it all set up and was ready to end things. I even wrote a note or two or record a message or two or both. And just as I was about to, I heard a voice, my voice, the voice inside, the still small voice inside said, "It's okay if you do this. However, if you decide to stay and navigate this, what you will experience and what you will learn, you'll be able to use to be of service to others." This was like, I don't know, 22 years ago, roughly ish. And I paused and I set my weapon down. I was licensed and it was all legal and everything. And I pulled out that bullet and I carried it in my pocket for about 2 years to always remind me that I decided to navigate it. And I did. And I successfully navigated. And I learned a shit load of stuff. And I lost my home to foreclosure. And just, I learned a lot about life and navigating financial things. And a lot of things I was told and learned about throughout life was just a little off. I'm gonna take a little break, take a drink of water, and I'll resume the story if it'll work. All right, I'm back. We'll see how long that works. With talking, my throat just got really, really dry. I think I might just drink in front of you and just have to deal with it. So, um, ever since that decision, no matter what life has thrown at me, and life will throw things at you, I've never thought about um, ending my life. It's never been a thing. I've shared the story. I don't know how many times I've saved a lot of people's lives sharing that story. Um, I've talked people out of suicide pretty much ever since I was a kid. I owned a bulletin board for a while and stuff. I think once or twice we called the authorities in and for interventions and things, but never had any professional training on it. And I've done some crazy things. We've had some people that committed suicide, and you think depression is a trigger, and a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's just they're happy because they made a decision. And anyway, I'm thinking of a young man that was in my life, foster kid. Anyway, just too much of that. Um, so I've learned some things. So some of the things I've learned is I have a default mantra, if you will. Maybe it's a religious content, a default saying, and it is, "This is serving me, whatever it is." I know it sounds a little arrogant, right? Whatever this is serving me somehow. So that's a default assumption. In fact, I have a training course in cryptocurrency trading and financial empowerment, and that's one of the mind game things is this is a default thing towards everything in your life. How is it serving me is a question that you ask. You begin asking questions. And I don't have time to train you all on POTU stuff, but I want to talk about relationship things. So whatever's happening, if you ask yourself, I wonder how this is serving me, or just assume it is. And if you're really going through a lot of trauma, I want to give you a message. If you decide to navigate this, you'll be stronger, you'll be wiser. It doesn't mean you're never going to not feel pain and have that suffering again in your life, but it will be of service to others. People who don't have things happen in their lives live really boring lives. And if you're one of those people, not meaning to call you out as having a boring life. You probably made way better decisions in your life than I have. My life, I realized recently that I was born into drama. I was the save the marriage baby after a child died in an auto accident. I think the kid was like 8 or 9 years old. My middle name is named after this kid. And I was an epic failure at whatever that mission and cause was. I was born into it wasn't domestic violence in terms of physical violence, but it was a lot of mental, emotional violence. And I was the youngest. My nearest sibling was 10 years older than I was and wanted out. And it was just horrible. Don't have a lot of good childhood memories, but I have some. And I'm not going to get into all that. But I realized that I've been solving problems since I was old enough to cognitate. My existence was a result of someone trying to solve a problem instead of getting professional counseling. A lot of folks go to spirituality and advanced spirituality or change their religions or belief systems in order to avoid getting professional counseling. And I get it because a lot of times professional counseling, they're whacked. So if someone needs that, reach out to me. I know someone who's not whacked who can probably refer you to someone or at least give you some guidance. Um, I found somebody after doing some research on relationship stuff, and he was really, really good. Spent $1,000 talking about a crock pot once, so that's another story for another time. Um, I've been gaslighted to the point where I lost confidence in myself. Didn't know about it at the time. I've dealt with, did a deep dive in DV where I didn't realize what was going on. And it wasn't physical violence, it was mental, emotional manipulation level stuff, um, which I was unaware of. I was naive about it. And what I learned through that was abusers are generally survivors of whatever it is that they learn how to do. And it's usually not on conscious purpose. Wine hurt. Although there's some predators out there that they think they're doing you a favor, making you stronger. And they actually have a point. It's just kind of sick point. I think we can achieve those things without it, but they've got their perspectives. It's kind of warped. Our species is pretty warped. Most of us are born and raised into some kind of observation of violence in our entertainment, in our homes, verbal, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, other, all rolled up into one. Bruises and beatings are the obvious ones. There's other things that are probably even worse and more damaging. And anyway, kind of been stumbling along through life, learning stuff hard way, slapped in the face a few times. I've talked with rape survivors and shared some ideas as a problem solver and had my face slapped and told what kind of an evil human I am. And a few weeks later, that same person ran up to me and told me I was right, threw their arms around me, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and broke a 20, 30-year cycle of reliving a rape. I mean, a violent rape when they were a child. And there's different types of rapes, and I'm not going to get into that or ages of consent or any of that stuff. I'm just saying we're messed up. I've run into men who were raped, and it's just crazy. I realized there were some inappropriate things that happened to me when I was a child. I was tortured by a sibling physically once, and then I was mentally and emotionally abused repeatedly by a lot of people in my family. Never viewed it as such till got to think about it during COVID. So why am I saying all that is rule of three is to wait. I think I dropped some notes in the information on however this is streaming. There's an outline of it, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks. I'm reading it 3 months, 3 quarters. Never done the 3 quarters thing. Never thought about it till tonight or 3 years. And anyway, something I learned as an owner of a bulletin board is serious long-term relationships. Sometimes there's a 2 or 3 year cycle that happens. And if you're married and have children, I would suggest that you work through counseling, cross your T's, dot your I's, um, and give yourself that 3 years to cycle through. Be open, willing to get help, and reciprocate. You can create the relationship of your dreams wherever your starting point is, if you are both willing. Don't care what happened. Because whatever happened is probably as a result of you both being unskilled in relationship and survivors of some kind of abuse. And you're acting out as survivors. The reason why a man or woman cheats in a relationship isn't because they're horny. Deeper things going on there. Oddly enough, it's only the basis for 14% of marital endings. You think it's the ultimate sin and the ultimate ending. It's a breach of trust and all sorts of stuff, but we're more complicated than that. And a lot of these, God, I wish the video would be more stable. I apologize for that. I need to probably invest in a real camera instead of these things for this sort of thing. Just gonna have to deal with it. Just don't watch me. You see me, just close your eyes and just listen. I apologize for the video. Um, wow. Okay. So, Humans are humans. We make mistakes. We betray each other. We're all sinners. If you're into that sort of thing, most people in the United States, 73% chance that word means something to you. I would offer to your consideration that labeling yourself as such is a manipulation and abuse and of itself. I'm not going to get into all that. Let me just simply say that you are worthy. Whatever your sin was today, yesterday, this last week, this last year, whatever crime you committed, okay, don't do that moving forward. Figure out why, get counseling. If you're a danger to others, turn yourself in, right? If turning yourself in will help stop you from hurting other people, then go do it. You'll get help even if you're incarcerated. If turning yourself in is going to do nothing but destroy your lives and bring nothing good to the world versus you apologizing, taking some ownership, or trying to heal the harm you've caused, then don't. But do figure out what's going on. And when a relationship ends, you have a okay. So it's like you're going to go through a heroin level withdrawal for the first 72 hours, 3 days. Imagine that. If you were sexually active with your former partner, if you're a man, you'll probably lose a neurochemical connection through that avenue within 3 days. It's just medical science. Do your own research. Don't believe me. Please don't. Don't trust. Always verify. I may be off by a day or a few hours, but whatever. Women, on the other hand, your neurochemistry is impacted by sexual relationships with a man for 3 weeks. It's not fair. It sucks. It's not right. Don't know what to do about it. Awareness is important. What most people do is when they have an ending of a relationship, they jump into another one to get their fix. Yeah. Rebound. It's worse than that. You're vulnerable. Seriously, if you have a relationship coming in and you just need to not date, not do any of that, no revenge sex, none of that crap for a month. Take a month off. Focus on self-care. Focus on just, you probably need to do that anyway, like going to sleep. Speaking of sleeping, I'm going to bring up another resource here. All right. So this album, this is on Bandcamp. You can actually go to this. It's just seek out Celia Farron. You can see her name over here. She's famous in some circles, and she has an album called Letting Go. The first month after that breakup that I was talking about, I couldn't sleep. That was kind of new for me. And what I did is I put on headsets or earbuds, cranked it up to probably a volume that could have potentially hurt my ears, but I turned up to a level where it overrode my thinking. And I purchased this album, and if you can't afford it, you can still listen to it for free. Though everything, it's really cool. And sometimes Sealy does whatever price you want to pay offers. But anyway, I listen. This is affirmative music. It helped me sleep. In fact, I think the first couple ones there's no words. And if you're going through the shit or the relationship shit, as I like to call it, I think you might find this helpful. I'm making a couple little fine tuning adjustments here. So this is a person and music that saved my life. So I don't know. Now I'm sharing some resources. So just get your notepad out. So really, this whole live stream is about what to do. And the first thing is just to stop. Give yourself 3 months just to get your bearings and put a plan together. You'll probably have that together in your first 3 weeks, i.e. within your first month. Okay. And if it was a significant relationship that just tore your heart out, you got to give yourself time to heal. You know, um, if you got guy friends or gal friends, whatever, call them, go out. I'd stay away from alcohol and drugs though right now. You don't need that. Alcohol certainly doesn't help. You don't need to become vulnerable while you're vulnerable at a new level. But, yeah. I remember when I was on a men's team and some guys who go through some pretty serious shit, we take them out to a cabaret type place. That's a nice way of saying we went there with a lot of dollar bills, and it was cheap therapy to have a pretty girl smile and be nice to them. So I don't know what women do. I think they might do the same thing. But here's another resource. I found this one later, but it's a great story. I prefer listening to her work on audiobooks. She actually has it's not always open, but she has there's free resources and stuff and books, and this is some of the best stuff. And don't let the word magic fool you. This isn't a religious or spiritual thing. It's not about that at all, but it's about life processes that actually get results and works. That's inspirational. And anyway, Genevieve Davis. She also is actually a fairly famous author regarding insomnia under another pen name. Genevieve is her pen name for this. I think her real name is Sasha. But I use this book, Becoming Rich, as part of the coursework for financial empowerment that I teach with cryptocurrency trading. Her books, Becoming Magic, Doing Magic, Advanced Magic, this is kind of her life journey kind of stuff. And download your first book for free. What really impressed me about this, and I'm not paid for this, is all the proceeds of this particular work she gives away each year. She's that prosperous in life. And if you're looking for a roadmap that works, I think 5-day course. Man, she's added some free stuff. Genevieve, if you ever watch this, I'm just so impressed with you as a human being. And anyway, I'm a founding member of her academy. Proud to be a founding member of that academy. Um, this has got the best financial plan. I've gone to a lot of expensive seminars about finances and business investing, financial management, budgeting, all that sort of stuff. Um, Probably the best financial advice is in this little book. It's a short, small little book. It's a great audio listen. If you're running, a lot of times when a relationship comes to an end, you're facing financial stuff too, right? Especially women, um, more oftentimes than men, because money is a power tool that men use to rule over women. And we become quite vicious with that sometimes. I never was that person, but if you are ending a relationship, I have a whole strategy for that. Hold the context of um, you both have to agree to this, of course, right? Is no matter what or why the relationship's ending, it's ending, right? Just make a commitment if you can have the conversation for both of you moving on successfully, holding that context. And that if you have children involved, you don't have a choice. Otherwise, it's a disaster for the kids, and the violence just gets worse. And I'll tell you this from experience: divorcing someone doesn't end the relationship if you have children, and your relationship can actually get better, or it'll turn into an ungodly disaster. Even if you don't believe in God, it becomes an ungodly evil. What happens to everybody involved if you allow it to go evil? And most people do. You doubt that? Just look at what the Johnny Depp scenario did. Talk about here you got money and power. Let's just take it to a public forum. Kind of weird hearing about the whiskey bottle and stuff like that. It's like, man, people not only air whatever your private stuff is and intimacies, but they'll make shit up. It's kind of crazy how evil people can become once they begin. You should hold the context to help the other person succeed in life. And sometimes it's hard. And if it's a one-sided thing where you're dealing with someone who's just being evil towards you and lying, defamation, all sort of stuff, you can go after destroying them. And I don't recommend it. My suggestion is to eliminate the toxic relationship, box all their shit up, delete all the pictures, archive them, If you have mutual friends, either disassociate yourself from those mutual friends and let them have those friends and move on. The reason I'm looking this way is I'm seeing myself, and I shouldn't be doing that. Just some tips. So if it's toxic and there's no children involved, but there's mutual friends involved, which is often right. You know, it depends on where you're at. Um, but if it's toxic for you, just eliminate anything that's toxic. All the memories, memorabilia, gifts, box it up, store it, label it, put a date on it. 3 years from now to go through it. Might bring you joy, or if it's still toxic, just get rid of that shit. There's no lack of friends on planet Earth. There's 8 billion really good people. You don't need to keep mutual friends. That's a tough lesson. It's a really tough one. I had to do that. I had to walk away from people I care about, and I had to divorce myself from the situations. And then I had another relationship that went evil on me, and it's just a whole other conversation. That was easy for me to cut them out of my life and stuff. Um, yeah, there's no three strikes with me. I learned that the hard way many, many decades ago. No, friend or family member, one strike's enough. Until they own it, you're done. Be done, please. Keep your sanity. Everyone deserves a second chance once they've asked for it and they've owned their shit. Until they do, no, they can just stay away. And there's 8 billion people on the planet. There's plenty of space for them to go heal and find healing elsewhere. And if you're the person bringing the toxicity to it, that's okay. Know that you need to heal and you should heal before you open up the world to another person. And no matter who you are, if a relationship ends, you're probably not ready for another relationship for about another 2 3 years. All right, back to resources. Here is a book that pissed me off. I saw the title and I had a concussion at the time, so I couldn't read. So I got in an audiobook. The title just made me angry. The universe has your back. Because when I saw this title, I was within the first 30 days. And part of what was so devastating was I thought the universe, the divine, whatever you want to call it, had blessed and brought this relationship into my life. And, um, and the ending of that relationship disrupted my spirituality, my connection to the divine. Seriously, still have issues with that right now. But I was so angry. I recognized I was triggered by the title. I wanted to listen to it. And it was one of the best listens at that time of my life ever. So, Gabby Bernstein, cool stuff. And then there's another one called May Cause Miracles that pissed me off. I got it. And I did not know that it was a 40-day assignment, a daily assignment for 40 days. And I actually did it. I thought it was just going to be another listen to it kind of thing. Goody two shoes, you know. She's cute, right? There's some of her other books and stuff like that. Spirit Junkie was one of her first ones. Um, if you're really caught up in judgment, they have a thing called Judgment Detox. It's actually really, really good. So I can recommend that. This was helpful. The point is it wasn't so much about me telling you to read these books and things. I've got so many books. I've read so many books. I don't know, hundreds or thousands of them. I don't know. Um, the point is I was open to guidance, even though I was pissed off. Okay. So my idea of communicating with God or goddess or the divine or the force is to tell it to go F itself in Marine Corps level language, which I'm not going to do here. I used to tell folks, you haven't had a real conversation with God unless you've gotten real. Most people are like, oh, please, please, beg, beg, beg. And then, oh, we praise you, praise you, praise you. You're so good. It's like, really? I don't think they're so good when you're sitting there in a puddle of mess pondering your existence. Where is? No. No, I think that's a form of gaslighting, spiritual gaslighting, and it's painful to wake up to that crap. Sorry if you're in it. I've not found any deity by any name of any tradition to be very helpful. But having said that, I've had experiences where I am not an atheist, but I recognize something winks at me. And I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'll figure it out after I go on to the next world. So these are the big resources for me. Okay, let's just review this because I need to wrap this up. Journey from Abandonment to Healing. Get an audio. Visit their website, abandonment.net. I'm sorry I didn't take the time to drop these in. The links, just you have to do it, abandonment.net. Just stop, rewind, get it. Um, this one is the Journey from Abandonment to Healing. I used to carry, I still have multiple copies. Like someone have a breakup or something, I would either give them this. One friend, I actually went outside and I read them the chapter on the shattering, and I think it was helpful. But I don't think they've got the book, and I don't think they read the rest of it. There's a whole process for rebuilding your life in this book. It's really good. You can find Genevieve online. She's got a free group, and she also has I think, a paid group, and she's got some stuff, but I would tune in to her stuff, her audiobooks. Or these books are actually fairly small. They're easy reads, but they're read with an English accent. And they're just really, really good. And she has some great insights. Her current insights actually go beyond these books because she's learned some things since she's written these. But anyway, if you're looking for some positive associations um, that are accepting of just about all belief systems, I think you find a home here. Gabby stuff is what anything that triggers you or motivates you, you might find. She's got some great forums online. She's got a club. She's got an app. Very positive stuff. The point is be open for that guidance, but stop the cycle. Let me turn this off. Stop the cycle. Rule of 3. Give yourself time to heal. Now, there's another book out there. Let me see if I can find it. Came right up. For when you want to rebuild your life, or if you're really concerned about humanity and its future, this is the weirdest little book. I'd recommend it an audiobook. Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. I was trying to find a few paragraphs of this book for a friend. It goes into the future of dating. I need to isolate it. It needs to be indexed. I need to find it and get permission from the author to just reference it, but it's really, really good. So, there's six. Let me run the numbers for you because sometimes when gosh, the video, please stop. Do I need to get closer? Will that help with the video image? Maybe. Um, when you have an ending, you go into this deep processing and reprocessing, and it's okay to learn, but right now, focus on activities of daily living. If you have work is a blessing. Pour yourself into your work. Um, if you got some close friends that you can go share um, with, do that. I had a friend meet me at 2 in the morning. Um, she just held me for about 20 minutes, and I was sobbing. Shout out to Miss Muse, wherever you are out there in the world. That was a moment where you made a difference. Um, but you gotta make space for your time to heal. You gotta find a safe space. You gotta clear your space, especially if it's toxic. In my last situation, I had this rule of 3, and I had some terms and standards. I think I stated them. And when I left, you know, they wanted to give me a hug and stuff. I said, no. I says, unless, I think I said something like, unless you wake up from whatever this is, you will never see me again, ever. And I set a term. and a standard, and I've lived by that. And there were some terms and standards that were almost met. One night was almost magical. I literally said out loud, "If this happens, and this happens within the next," I think it was the next 4 minutes while I was driving home, "I'll take this as a sign." 30 seconds later, the phone rang. My phone rang, and I was invited over, but my terms and standards were not met. And I said, "No, can't do it." I think that was the last time I actually talked to them. Uh, had to communicate, wrap things up, email, text. But I knew that I had to respect myself. In fact, I've gone through so many relationships, marriages, and things in life. Before that relationship, I spent 3 years where I decided to be celibate, abstinent, wasn't going to date other than friendship stuff. And towards the end of that time period, I started crossing a few lines and things like that. And it's just kind of weird to say no to people that you want to say yes to. And then having to explain yourself is kind of embarrassing and stuff. But I spent 3 years becoming the human being, the man that I needed to be in order to find her, whoever she was. And that's a whole other conversation for another time. But there's a process for finding the man or woman of your dreams, or creating the man or woman of your dreams. I actually authored a book called Mental Monogamy. I refused to publish it because I think it's too dangerous. Everyone's worried about cheating. I figured out how you can like not cheat with your mind. Yeah. But I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy outside of a real mutual committed reciprocating relationship. So foundations, if you're looking for foundations, there's two things. I'll simplify your 5-page list, 7-page list, or whatever. First of all, you can't find them. Statistically, if you're looking for one out of a million, there's 8 billion people. What is it? Isn't that like 8,000 now? Half that, 4,000 Mr. Ms. Perfect for you? One out of a million? If you're looking for one out of a billion, there's 8. Numerically, the odds are in your favor. Great show, Love is Blind on, is it Netflix? If those folks would have just had some relationship counseling first, you can watch a lot about human dynamics in that little reality show. It's really sad that I saw a lot of great potential relationships, great premise that could have worked it out if I would have done a training course just for 30 minutes or something. So you need to have hope to know that there's more than one. That's a fallacy. But more importantly, God, every time I move, it's like the video goes unstable. I'm gonna try to sit here, maybe look at the camera. Um, we want to be the one, but you need to realize there can be more than one. And the fact is, we as a species grow. We have cycles of our life. We have different needs in our life. We're not taught that as kids. We throw kids into lifelong, till death do us part marriages without any real preparation or counseling. I think the Catholic Church does some real counseling, but they don't really get into what really needs to get into. They have a I think they have a 52% success rate, or they did like 30 years ago. I was part of the 48%, didn't make it. And it was because I and my former spouse, we didn't have good role models. We didn't have good training. It's just, we just did what society expected us to. We were ill prepared. And I was just willing to be dishonorable. I'll take, I'll take, I'll take the hit on that and the ownership of that. But actually, her and I are still friends to this day. In fact, we worked together. Well, mutual friend passed. We're getting to be that old, right? And, you know, we both learned from that. We both chose to make it not toxic. And she's one of the few people in my life that I actually trust who's earned my trust. And I think vice versa. And so it doesn't have to be evil, but you won't find. You have to become, and you will not become within the next 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months. You won't. You need to give yourself time. You need to get to peace of it. Back to rule of three. The reason why you set the next timeline is because you're not at peace inside yourself. Peace becomes like a compass. And there's love and joy involved with stuff. You have inspiration. That can be kind of cool too, but you've got to give yourself time. And when in doubt, just stop, rest, pause, focus on the simple stuff. I wanted a relationship after, I mean, my first month, I just worked, came home and grieved, worked, came home and grieved. I don't remember the first month, which was the month of November. And, but in the first 3 minutes, I had a glimmer of hope that I latched onto. That not only would I survive this, but I had options beyond this. But I didn't want anything beyond that at the time. Been there, done that. So when I decided to rebuild, I already went through a 3-year period of time of not dating. So I knew exactly who I was. I was already proud of myself. I had already done a lot of healing. And I had to decide whether I wanted to bother with a relationship again or not. So I created a process. I sat down and I gave it some thought. I did some project planning and I gave myself a 3-year timeline. And I had someone hunt me and prospect me, and that person was a crazy person. Yeah, it's kind of weird. They come out of the woodwork and they're all so nice and sweet and just weird. Hmm? Yeah, I was willing to go together for lunch and stuff as friends. Boy, did it turn evil really, really bad when I actually started doing my plan of dating. It's kind of weird. My plan worked. My plan worked, and it was effortless. It's like the universe opened the doorway to an amazing blessing that I never would have had I stayed where I was at. But I was really attached. I had to empty that cup in order to allow the new relationship to even happen. So that's another story for another time. I'm the happiest dude I know. I work with guys older than me, younger than me, married, not married, and then single guys, whatever. And I'm the happiest dude I know. And I'm imperfect. And just gonna hold the context. But one of the interesting contexts is has been reciprocation and willingness. And the context I wanted, and she wanted too, was we wanted to have a stress-free and drama-free life. Wasn't about rich, wasn't about money, wasn't about it's just we want stress-free, drama-free. We held the context. It's almost 6 years and we've never once said an unkind word to each other. Now, I've used military language about other things and other people outside, but I've never addressed her in any disrespectful way. And she's reciprocated that. We didn't want that. We talked about that. But life happens. Not a word. I think we've had 2 or 3 miscommunications in 6 years because we held a different context than what we were born and raised with. And I will share that with another we're coming up on an hour here on a master class or a writing or a training on how to find the relationship. What is that process that I use? I shared some of it today, but tonight's thing was about survival and getting set to reboot your life. Oh, I think I've covered the first 3 months, but most importantly is the first 3 days of 3 weeks. Most people, you have a drug addiction, relationship wise, in your brain, neurochemical. Yeah, you're going to go through withdrawal worse than heroin. Won't kill you. Hell, heroin won't kill you. Alcohol will. Alcohol withdrawal can kill you. Heroin won't. Heroin will make you want to die. I wish you were dead. I don't know this personally, but I've talked to people who've gone through it. Alcoholics, they can die. So, you know, if you're an alcoholic, get help. They have medical programs now too. So go get some medical treatment. Go find, explore your options. Make the decision that you need help and ask for it. I was born and raised with a you don't ask for help. You're weak. If you ask for counselors, you're weak if you cry. And men don't do that. And counselors are for wimps. And that's all bullshit. One of the strongest men I know has a counselor. He actually became one. He's probably one of the best people I know for the job, too. Because he's done everything and he's gone places I haven't even been willing to go. What's funny is I am blessed to have a relationship in my life that I can actually trust and vice versa. We don't talk all the time, but when the shit hits the fan, we're there and it's deep and it's the real serious shit. And this was a relationship that was betrayed. He betrayed me. Boy, we had a nice 15, 20-minute military level FU session. I think he is the only man who, a couple years later, called me and said, and I just was ready to just chew him a new one again. He says, before you get into that, I just want to let you know you're right. Never met another man beside myself to own their own shit. It's a rarity. That's a man that I did trust with the life of my family on multiple occasions. Out of 40 or so options, he was the one I knew I could count on. Shout out to my pig farmer friend, if he ever watches this. Anyway, you have the freedom to create your life experience, including your relationship. Shoot, I remember when I was first married rented an apartment, the neighbor next door, every Friday night, they had a knockdown, drag out fight where I almost called the police a couple times. I mean, throwing, screaming, yelling, evil words being said. And it always ended up with their bed hitting against the wall in a rhythmic boom, 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 boom every Friday night. I knew I didn't want that. Some people like that. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, know thyself, learning to know thyself, gain a peace with yourself, becoming the person you need to be in order to attract and get noticed by the person who you want in your life. Because you're probably not going to find them. They're going to find you. And you're probably not going to find them by looking for them. You've got to become the person they're looking for. So if you're into like, who is Mr. or Ms. Right? And okay, bonus session. Who is Mr. or Mr. Right? I was on a men's team where dude said he was going to find the woman of his dreams inside of 90 days. We spent like 3 hours trying to figure that one out. And then I've spent years taking it to another level and it came up with a context and it would be like, this is what happened to me. I said, I am the man, the woman of my dreams. will recognize as hers. That's the positive first person present tense affirmation. If you're not that person yet and you don't know who they are yet, you probably need to figure out who they are. I've got a friend that's got like 4, 5, 6 pages. Got a pretty good idea who they are. I had a list and I had someone fulfill that list and destroy me. There's probably some things in that list that were missing. It's just part of life, right? But if you're in the process of becoming, the context you hold is I will become the man, or if you're a woman, I will become the woman the man of my dreams will recognize as his. Anyway, it's just a context. And, I'm not all, practicality, dream, blah, blah, blah. I got to come down to earth, blah, blah. I'm not going to have that conversation. It's just a context. And at the end of the day, it's you becoming the best you around the type of life you want to live. I see a bunch of male dominated shit coming up and male this and male that, and they've got some valid points. Go watch Man Talk on YouTube. Shit's hilarious, and he makes some really, really valid points. But do you want to be a dude that dominates a woman and a woman's there because she needs you and she's afraid of you and she got tricked into making some commitments to you? And is that what you want? Most of those men that have that are very unhappy. Right? If you're Chad, right? You're buff, you got the six pack, you got money. Chad never knows who to trust. He never knows if a woman is in love with him or his status. That's why successful people, wealthy people, famous people have such a hard time in relationships. This stuff, we need different contexts. And people make a lot of money coaching and telling people stuff. And it's really a lot simpler than all of that. I think so, anyway. I wish I would have known now what I known when I was younger. A whole system of things I would teach my younger self. And I'm working on making it available for all of you. Right now, I'm giving it away for free. All right. So I think that's all I got for now, folks. I'm supposed to try to monetize this stuff, and I'm not doing anything I've been trained to do around it. So, but just go visit my website, follow me. I mainly hang out on Facebook. I'm broadcasting to 5 different locations right now, and I'll probably get around to creating a YouTube thumbnail for this one and organizing it. And I don't. Most people who have successful channels have a staff of people that organize stuff after they do something like this, and then they download it, and then they chop it up and all sorts of cool stuff to make it more palatable in 30-second increments. Oh, the video is just horrible. I should have just used my other camera on this one, so I apologize for the video being so crappy. I will get a green screen or something in place. This instability of image has got to be annoying as F. So I apologize for that. But hopefully the information was of value. All right, we hit the hour mark here. I really do wish everyone the very, very best. I've got more content that I'm working on publishing officially and stuff. My website's a disaster, but there's some good articles. If you have a domestic violence situation or divorce, you're looking about divorce, I have a whole article about that and issues. If you're facing financial stuff, if creditors are suing you, I've got a really good article on that with some resources and things. So anyway, I think I'm going to check the chat, see if anyone chatted anything. I don't have any chat comments from anybody here. So let me check the overlay. All right. So I've probably been talking to myself for an hour, but I've noticed people have been watching my stuff. So it's kind of cool. Shout out to whoever you are. One of my goals was to reach a larger audience with what I know. A lot of times these conversations are more efficient if it's one-on-one. Like, you call me up. I'm usually the guy, I'm going to ramble on a little bit here. I'm usually the guy that, ever since I was a teenager, when the shit hit the fan, like prayer failed, You tried to offer your soul to Satan, and you went out in the wilderness even, and Satan didn't show up to take it or cut a deal. I met a lot of people that wanted to cut the deal with Satan, kind of thing. I thought that was interesting. Um, Me and some friends went out in the wilderness to try to find him. Apparently, that's where you're supposed to hang out. Could never been able to find him. I've got some great stories about religion and meaning and stories and stuff like that. Man, why is this image just it's driving me crazy? So my point is reaching a broad audience with the knowledge of my life, which has proven to be beneficial to others. I've been a consultant most of my life, a problem solver. Normally, I'd say, "Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you believe in? When you were born and raised, how were you born and raised? What are the last couple books you've read? Do you read? Whatever. If I'm walking in someone's office, I can just scan the room. I learned this as a salesperson. I can pretty much have them figured out based on the decor, their pictures, and more importantly, the books on their bookshelf and the book that is on their desk. I don't have any of that available to me, sharing information with you. So if you were have told me that you were a Christian, there's a 72% chance in America, or actually probably a 68% chance now. Congratulations, MAGA, for hurting your own belief system and reducing the numbers with the craziness. Sorry if you're one of those. I'm opinionated, not ashamed of it. The point is I could speak to you in your language. I could talk about Bible stuff and Jesus. Uh, Jesus asked a question: "Are you not divine?" If you're Muslim, Muslims, Islam believes Jesus was a great prophet. So I'm covering a bigger section of the world now. Are ye not divine? I think it's translated, "Are ye not gods?" Which is a quote from an Old Testament thing. Don't want to get into all that sort of stuff. Most all that shit was plagiarized anyway. Both Old and New Testament was plagiarized from lots of pre-existing sources. Don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. I spent most of my life starting at age 6 asking hard questions. But I think it was a valid point. Are you not divine? I think that's the way it should have been written. Namaste, another language, another culture, another belief system, another ideology. Interesting that we have this common concept that maybe you're divine. Hmm. Most of us, somewhere along the road, we're less than ants. We're scum. We're this. We're pond scum. We're this. We're all this. And it's like, which is it? That, by the way, is a mind control tactic. Having two opposing views, throwing it out there. One minute you're this one. It's mind control. Shout out to Mr. Hassan, one of the foremost experts on mind control. Documented. Wrote a brilliant book. I hate the title, The Cult of Trump. Sorry if you're a Trump supporter. Great book, though, whether or not you like the title. If you want to learn about media mind control and how he came into power and other weird things going on, that's probably the best book out there. Audiobook. It's more palatable. So the point is, most of us do not view ourselves as divine, even though it's in our religious context or texts. If you're an atheist, it's okay. You have to admit it's a statistical anomaly, cool thing that we even exist in the Cinderella zone. So I'm with you, brother or sister. Ramen, FSM, they usually are FSM members. You don't know what that is? It's the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. It's a big deal. Best memes, humor, jokes, most genuine humans on the planet. Kind of wild. Holy Kool-Aid is another content provider which exposes a lot of crap. So, but the context is you, whoever you are watching this, you have not accepted the fact that you are sacred. You got your whole list of sins. Other people got a whole list of all your sins. Everyone who you've ever screwed over's got their, or maybe you never. Maybe you've always been the victim. Maybe you've been both. Doesn't matter. You've never, ever been taught, born, or raised with an honest, earnest, except for some context, that you were in fact sacred. I spent 3 years pondering that. It took me 3 years of not having sex and not dating women to get to the point that I didn't even want to hold hands with someone who wasn't aware of their own divinity. In the pagan community, if you were to enter one of their sacred circles or a Wiccan circle, don't worry. You don't have to worry. I'm not going to cast a spell. Don't need to do that. So just chill, get your holy water out, put your cross out, you know, unless you're the other Eastern Orthodox. Um, Whatever you need to do. So when you enter one of those circles, they would ask you at the point of a sword or a knife, an athame, athene, however you want to pronounce it. More impressive when it's a tip of a real sword. And they address you. Thou art God. Thou art goddess. How do you enter? Pretty wild. Talk about practicing and walking their talk. Shout out to all those that are on that path. Some of my most beautiful moments were there. Some of the most Christ-like people I've ever met were Wiccans. Fascinating thinking about it. Oh man, that video is just driving me nuts. So I'm not promoting any of those sorts of things. Let me throw something out there for you, because most people are still searching that too. They're born and raised into something, but they always have these questions. So I'll share a little POTU stuff with you a little bit that might be helpful. I think my movement is causing the the camera to refocus, and that's what's driving us both nuts. I'm just going to have to ignore it. So, lost my train of thought. You're searching. I can tell you that I have found and validated multiple belief systems during different times of my life. But I want to offer everyone a consideration, especially if you think you found the way, the one true way. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's a Jewish upbringing thing. So I would offer for your consideration. Let's now, atheists, just not trying to start an argument here. All right. Your patron saint, my Catholic background, part of my life coming up, is Thomas. Thomas is a patron saint of atheists. I've scored with my atheist friends with that. They'd argue with me, and I'd say, no, he is. And I'd say, he's the one that demanded proof. He's the only smart one of the bunch. And they started laughing. Oh, yeah, you're right, David. You're right. He is a patron saint. They've got a great sense of humor, by the way, atheists do. I have great respect for the requirement of proof, because you would think that an unlimited being, if challenged, would materialize and let some person say, prove it to me. And they did. See, that was a story to say, well, since he did it, you don't have to. Bullshit. Sorry, that offends. It's an act of personal responsibility. If you're willing to kill, torture, and set aside the golden rule and violate human and civil rights because of your religious belief system, because someone's telling you that God told you to do it, and you have not personally validated that directly with said deity, you, my friend, are being played a fool. There's a Bible quote about that. Suffer not a fool. Nah, let's not go there. I don't want to break anyone's terms or conditions. If you were to read the Bible into some of the things, you'd be violating community standards all over the place. You'd be violating human and civil rights. I would offer for your consideration that if you look up into the universe, and there's trillions of universes, so there's like trillions of Cinderella zones. If there's only one planet like Earth in every one of the universes that are out there, right, or galaxies, there's trillions of intelligent species out there. Okay. The creator of all of that doesn't give a shit about any specific little piece of Earth anywhere because it's all sacred and all life is sacred. And something or someone or some entity or group of entities or powers or beings that could have created all of that doesn't need you to go kill anybody, doesn't need you to go to war, doesn't need you to save the US or save this or save that or save this piece of ground because you are indigenous to this planet. Hell, you're indigenous to this solar system. Why are you limiting the unlimited? I'll save you like 30 years of questioning if you just replay back what I just said. You're being played. It's got to stop because we're facing extinction as a species. There's any number of tipping points we've tipped. We're still arguing about it. It's stupid. Science could probably save us, but not when you got people getting close to being able to press the big button and believe that if they press that button, Big Daddy's going to come back and speak over the waters and restore everything, to recreate Eden. I don't think it works that way. I don't think you get to be irresponsible as F and have Big Daddy come back. Doesn't make any sense. If you're all into Jesus and stuff, and all, I haven't studied Islam a lot, but not only were they leaders, but they taught logic and reason, which is kind of hilarious. People just believe. It's like, well, that's not kind of what they taught. No, quote this, quote that, just grab this. Anything you need to justify, you can find a justification for it. Slavery, no problem. Torture, no problem. Rape, no problem. Genocide, no problem. But there's only one golden rule, and we all have it, no matter what our language, and we keep violating it. We have yet to master it. Ha! Argue that. Human rights, civil rights. Put the word universal in front of it and add the word sentient. Why? Because if we don't you add the word sentient, well, US European colonialization said, "Oh, they're really not human. We can enslave them. We can slaughter them. We can do whatever we want with them." Were they sentient? Oh, yeah, they were. But yeah, but they were meant to be ruled by us because we have divine right of authority over them. Well, I'm a lord, and because I'm a king or this or whatever, I have divine right over. I have the right to first night. You know what? That's all violation of the golden rule, isn't it? We've got the knowledge. I'm not really saying anything new. It's just I'm bringing attention to it in a way that most people don't think about. So I would offer for your consideration, you will never have a good life other than just making it look and pretend to be a good life until you honor the golden rule in all areas of your life, in your politics, in your businesses, in your work, your career, your family, in your home, and your treatment of yourself, your children, your neighbors' children, other people anywhere in the world who are all indigenous to this planet and have the same rights you do. The same rights you do. If you want to use a quote the US Constitution, go for it. Except for they use the word men, but men really was the term of the era referring to all humans. That's just the way they talked and the way they wrote things. All have certain unalienable rights. Didn't say US citizens, didn't say white people, didn't it said all. And I don't know why we don't understand that. You don't need beyond a fourth grade education to understand that, but no one's teaching it. It's not profitable. or sell you stuff I gotta make you afraid. And it works. And we're not gonna get into that. There's psychology behind it. So, um, golden rule if you want a secret. If your religious belief system isn't practicing it, it's toxic to you. You will never find a happy relationship. I very seldom speak in absolutes like that, but unless you're unless you're living your life and that made that your commitment, the golden rule, I don't think it's possible. And if your partner hasn't made that their priority, like that's what they're loyal to you, right? Not the religion, not the deity, but the principles of the deity. How about that? Because if your loyalty to the deity requires of you to violate the principles of the deity, you are out of integrity with your deity. This is kind of shit I started thinking about age 6. Like, this doesn't make sense. When did this change? This is a different meaning. This is a different context. What was worse was the first time I saw someone hold up a Bible and says, "And this is the word of God." Well, it's actually the logos, but okay, well, I'll give it to you. And there's no, there's absolutely no contradictions. And I'm like, dude, you can't get out of the first chapter of that book. You can't get out of Genesis without nothing but contradictions, thousands of contradictions. It's crazy. But they say it with authority, and they're in a position of authority. And then they got credentials and they take your money. It's one of the oldest scams. They used to have to force it on you by arms through the Lord or the king, and then you had to believe the way the king believed, and then you need to pay your taxes. That's the way it used to be. So you have freedom to choose. So I would really recommend that you choose to decide what you're loyal to. And if you are divine, right, whatever that means to you, I like that word because it's gender fluid and it's preference fluid. I don't think divine really cares about any of that stuff. If you are that, then you do have a higher calling. But I would never date a mortal woman personally. I never had any problems dating. I see men and all those people having problems with datings. I haven't had any problems with women since about age 10. And I think the first girl that I had a thing for, she was 16. How was a 10-year-old even begin a relationship with a 16-year-old? Always had a thing for women that were older and more mature. That's just been my thing. But my point is, with what I know now, I would have lived my life totally differently. And I was exposed to a variety of very, very ancient and traditional religions going back 6,000 years and 2,000 years during my birth to teen years. And none of it was good anything to prepare me for life. In fact, it handicapped me in severe ways. I would almost call it spiritual domestic violence against children type of thing. And to include the genital mutilation, which was done without my permission. Yeah. So I think if you ever want to know what that is about, we didn't have ID cards. There was no real ID, so that was your identification as a male. If you were, couldn't charge you interest. If you weren't, we could charge you maximum interest by law. Go look it up. It's kind of crazy. Um, the, the point is, you are divine. You need to take a break from dating until you really, really get in touch with that. And as a divine being, you probably would not associate with or tolerate someone, especially with the energies of creation, anyone else who is not a divine being, or at least is awake and aware of it. So, my language, if someone wasn't aware that they were a goddess, if they were not aware of their feminine divine, uh, it'd be like dating a German Shepherd. I just well, there's people are into that, so I shouldn't even use that as an example. A moose, yeah, there's probably people into that too. It's really kinda weird. How about a hippo? There's probably some people are into there's probably hippo fetishes out there too. It's just anyway, it just wouldn't work for me, no matter how pretty they are. If they were not spiritually awake to their divinity, it's just not gonna happen. When I figured that out, all my relationships changed because I recognized everyone was divine, no matter what their age was. And now we're crossing another topic for another time. That's more POTU stuff, but this fits. If you want to have a goal, you need to rest, you need to heal. And before you hold hands, you need to get clear with how sacred you are a human being. And I'll tell you something, if you're a crack whore woman and you've been prostituting yourself to raise money for formula for your third child by your third daddy of the third race that you have, and you live in shame and you are shamed and no one respects you and you feel worthless. So on the book Power versus Force, you're at the bottom of the scale. Okay. Actually, the book Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, late Dr. David Hawkins, actually would explain how to get out of that because he specialized in that. I would tell you, my sister in spirit, that thou art goddess. You just need to wake up to it and you can you can navigate out of that. Same thing if you're a dude. Same situation. You probably aren't going to get out of it alone. The odds are against you, depending on what the drug is, right? But it's not 100%. But you're going to need help. Same thing with your relationships melting down and failing for whatever reason. You're probably going to need help. But none of it's going to work till you recognize who and what you are. And there's no religious belief system out there that I have come across. Well, that's not totally true. There's none that you're probably aware of. Well, some of my friends probably are aware of. There are very few that teach you or help guide you to that connection, that understanding. But once you are aware of who and what you are, you will start viewing yourself differently. You will start treating yourself as divine. You'll stop the drinking. You'll get help with the drugs or the drinking. You'll figure out your finances. You'll declare bankruptcy, whatever. You'll all this shame, all these manipulations, all these lovers, all of your past, you know, I'd recommend you go accept Jesus if it worked, except for you're proxying out the concept of a savior when you are already divine. And based on that actual mythology, when he said it is finished, he fulfilled the paschal lamb sacrifice. So there's really, I don't know why people argue about it, but anyway, I'm not going to get into it. It's complicated, but it's really not. But that's all been handled. Your awareness and an understanding of who and what you are is what's missing. I know there's one Christian lady preacher that actually teaches this kind of stuff. I think she's just amazing. I can't remember what her name is. She's got tattoos and stuff. She deals with all the misfits. Um, Absolutely love her sermons and stuff. I can't say about a lot, but I'm not anti any religion. Islam's got some beautiful traditions and stuff, and they put an end to some really stuff. And it's too bad that they reversed some of the women's rights stuff that Muhammad originally wanted to do, and then other people later said just remove their rights. It's kind of crazy, but it's all in history. It's the data's there. I could go on and 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 on about this stuff. But in context for this, and I will wrap up. Add another 30 minutes to this. I'm tired. Um, you need to rest. Don't don't rebound relationship. Don't go there. Don't revenge fuck. Don't. I'm not supposed to say words like that. Don't do that. Give yourself time to heal. I would offer for you to consider that if there is a divine out there, ask for guidance. You don't have to name names. If such a thing exists, it will hear you and may reach out to you in ways that are unexpected. God, hours of stories around that, personally. And my brain is just searching. Is there any one piece of information that I'm not leaving out here? And I don't think there is. I think I'm done. All right, everybody. My apologies for this going on longer than I intended to. Know that this is all about love and wanting to take my life experience and honor that message I received. That if I navigate this, that it will be a service to others, and that has turned out to be true. All righty, buddy. Have a good night. I'll just, is there something I can play on my way out? I don't have anything prepared for this. Oh, this is kind of cute. I don't think I showed this to anyone. It's really not an outro or anything like that, but I'll play it anyway, then I'll turn this off. And for some reason, it didn't. I don't know if it played properly. So something's happened. All right, everyone. Have a good night. David out.